After 12 years away, Clara Whitmore's journey back to Ashcombe was filled with a strange mixture of anxiety and resolve. The village seemed untouched by time, wrapped in the golden hues of early autumn. The familiar scent of damp earth and fallen leaves stirred memories that had long lain dormant. As her car wound through narrow country lanes, the grand silhouette of the Whitmore estate appeared through the morning mist, standing solemn and proud amid towering oaks. Clara paused for a moment before stepping out. The heavy wooden door loomed ahead, its carved surface worn smooth by years of wind and rain. She could almost hear echoes of a past life, the sound of her father's piano, laughter spilling from rooms now silent. The house had once been a place of warmth, but now, it seemed a monument to things lost. Crossing the threshold, Clara was greeted not by welcome, but by cold, watchful eyes. Portraits of stern ancestors lined the walls, their faces shadowed in the dim light, judging her return. Her footsteps echoed along the polished floor as she moved toward the drawing room where the family had gathered. Isabel, her stepsister, was the first to appear. Her sharp gaze and tight smile cut through the air like a knife. "Well, well. The prodigal daughter finally decides to show up," she said, her voice dripping with disdain. Clara met her gaze steadily. "I'm here for the reading of Father's will." Before Isabel could reply, a tall, imposing figure entered behind her. Reginald, Clara's uncle, known for his stern demeanor, scanned Clara with a mixture of suspicion and irritation. "Let us proceed quickly," he said, his voice low and commanding. "There is no need for drama." The atmosphere was thick with tension as they all settled in the dimly lit drawing room. Heavy curtains blocked out the waning daylight, and rows of leather-bound books filled the shelves. The solicitor cleared his throat and unfolded the documents. Clara's heart raced as the solicitor began to read. For several minutes, the names mentioned were those of Isabel and Reginald, along with distant relatives she barely recognized. Her name was not among them. A ripple of whispers spread through the room. Sophie's eyes gleamed with triumph, while Reginald's lips curled into a thin smile. Just as despair began to grip Clara's chest, a small, quiet voice interrupted the proceedings. Oliver, her 10-year-old son, stood up from his chair, his eyes fixed on the solicitor. "That song wasn't written for her, it was for Mum," he said clearly. A hush fell over the room. Every pair of eyes turned to the boy, the weight of his words hanging in the air. The solicitor blinked in surprise and glanced around. Clara's gaze met Oliver's, gratitude swelling in her heart. The moment had shifted. What secrets lay behind Oliver's words? What melody was hidden in the music of her father's final days? Before anyone could answer, the heavy oak door creaked open once more, and a shadow stepped inside, a figure long thought absent, whose return would change everything. The room fell into a heavy silence as the figure stepped fully into the light. It was Henry Whitmore's old friend and longtime family confidant, Mr. Connor. His presence was unexpected but somehow fitting. Dressed in a worn tweed jacket, with silver hair and kind eyes, he carried the air of someone who had witnessed much and held many secrets. "I'm sorry to be late," Mr. Connor said quietly, his gaze sweeping across the tense faces. "There have been things, complicated things that needed attention." Isabel frowned, whispering something to Reginald, who nodded sharply but said nothing. Clara watched as Mr. Connor carefully placed a small, leather-bound box on the table. "This belonged to Henry," he explained. "He asked me to give it to Clara if anything happened to him." Clara's breath caught. Slowly, she opened the box to reveal a worn journal and an old cassette tape. The room seemed to close in as everyone's eyes fixed on the objects. "The journal contains Henry's final thoughts," Mr. Connor continued. "And the tape? Well, that's something else entirely." Oliver looked up at his mother, curiosity shining in his eyes. Clara felt a surge of hope mixed with uncertainty. Could this be the missing piece to the puzzle she had been searching for? As the solicitor reluctantly nodded, Mr. Connor took the cassette tape and placed it carefully into an old recorder. The room filled with a faint static before Henry's voice emerged, clear but tinged with emotion. "My dearest Clara," the voice began, "if you are listening to this, then I am no longer with you. There are things I could never say aloud, secrets that have shadowed our family for too long." A shiver ran down Clara's spine. The words were a key, but to what door? Henry's voice echoed through the room, the recorder crackling softly as he continued. His words painted a picture of a family burdened by hidden debts and old betrayals, but also of a man desperate to protect the ones he loved. "I made mistakes," Henry confessed. Grave mistakes that cost us dearly.
But there is one truth I could not share while I lived. The truth about Isabel and the reason she was favored in my will.
A murmur swept through the room. Clara's eyes narrowed. She listened intently, every word cutting deeper into the fabric of her fractured family.
Isabel discovered a secret that could destroy us all. Henry's voice lowered to a whisper.
I promised to shield her from the consequences, but it came at a price. Mr. Connor glanced at Reginald, whose expression darkened. The tension thickened like a storm ready to break. But the past has a way of catching up, Henry continued.
And the truth. It must be faced. Clara's hands trembled as she reached for the journal.
Flipping through the pages, she found entries filled with Henry's anguish and hope. An account of a hidden ledger, a betrayal from within, and a final plea for redemption. Oliver sat close, clutching his mother's hand. The innocent eyes of a child seemed to anchor Clara's resolve. This was no longer just about inheritance. It was about uncovering the truth that could heal or shatter what remained of their family. Outside, the wind howled through the ancient oaks, as if urging Clara forward into the shadows where secrets waited to be revealed. The atmosphere in the room grew heavier as Clara traced her fingers over the worn pages of Henry's journal. Each entry revealed more than just personal anguish. They detailed transactions, names, and dates. Clues to a hidden ledger that might explain everything. According to Henry, this ledger contains records of debts owed to powerful people in the village, Mr. Connor explained, his voice low. It's said to hold the key to why Isabel was protected and why others were not. Clara's heart pounded. She looked around the room at the faces that had once dismissed her. Now they leaned in, captivated by the story unraveling before them. There's a place in the old mill where Henry hid the ledger, Mr. Connor added, reaching into his coat pocket to pull out a faded map. The paper was fragile, edges torn from years of use. Oliver's eyes widened with excitement. Can we go there? Can we find it? Clara smiled faintly, the first sign of hope in a long time. Yes, we must. This might be the truth we need. Isabel exchanged a wary glance with Reginald but said nothing. The room was thick with unspoken questions and uneasy alliances. As they gathered their coats and prepared to leave the dusty reading room, Clara felt the weight of her father's secrets pressing down on her. The journey ahead was uncertain, and the shadows of the past seemed closer than ever. Outside, the gray skies threatened rain, mirroring the storm brewing within. The journey to the old mill was short but filled with an eerie silence. The village of Ravenwood seemed to hold its breath, as if wary of the secrets buried within its heart. Clara, Oliver, Mr. Connor, and the others approached the weathered building, its wooden beams creaking with age. Clara's fingers trembled as she pushed open the heavy door. Inside, dust motes danced in the fading light, and the scent of damp wood filled the air. Every step echoed in the cavernous space, stirring memories of a past long hidden. Mr. Connor handed Clara a small torch. Be careful, he warned. This place hasn't seen visitors in years. As they moved deeper into the mill, Oliver's keen eyes caught a glint beneath a loose floorboard. Clara pried it open, revealing a metal box covered in rust. With trembling hands, Clara lifted the lid. Inside lay the ledger, a thick volume filled with meticulous entries, names crossed out, and numbers scribbled hastily. It was more than a record. It was a testament to the complicated web Henry had tried to manage. Suddenly, footsteps echoed from above. The group froze. Was someone else watching, waiting? A shadow moved across the upper loft. Clara's heart raced as a voice called down, cold and sharp. I knew someone would come looking. The hunt for the truth had awakened more than memories. The past was not done with them yet. Clara's breath hitched as the shadow descended slowly from the loft stairs. A tall figure stepped into the dim light. A man with sharp features and eyes that held secrets of their own. You shouldn't be here, he said coldly. This is not your fight. Clara squared her shoulders, the weight of years and questions lending her courage. It is my fight, she replied steadily. These secrets belong to my family. The man's lips curled into a bitter smile. Your family? You left them behind years ago. I left because I had to, Clara answered. But now I'm back to find the truth. Oliver stepped forward, clutching his mother's hand tightly. Who are you? He asked with innocent defiance. The man's gaze softened for a moment before hardening again. I'm someone who has been watching. Someone who knows what Henry did. And what he tried to hide. Mr. Connor moved beside Clara,
his presence a steadying force. "We're not here to destroy, but to understand."
The man hesitated, then nodded slowly. "Then listen carefully. There are forces at play far greater than debts or family disputes. Henry's ledger is just the beginning." A sudden crash sounded from below, breaking the tense silence. Shadows flickered in the doorway as more figures appeared. The truth was coming, but so were dangers they had never imagined.
The figures from the shadows stepped forward, villagers who had once been close to Henry, their faces marked by years of fear and regret.
The man in the loft introduced himself as Marcus, Henry's old friend and protector of the ledger's secrets. "We kept silent for years, hoping the past would stay buried," Marcus said, voice heavy with remorse.
"But the truth has a way of coming out."
Clara listened intently as Marcus revealed the depths of Henry's struggles. How he had tried to shield the village from ruin by balancing debts and favors. How Isabel had been his last hope. "But there were others," Marcus continued, "who wanted control, who sought to silence Henry forever." Oliver tugged at Clara's sleeve. "Is it safe now?" Clara glanced at the faces around her. Some hopeful, others wary. "Not yet.
But we're closer than ever."
As they prepared to leave the mill with the ledger, Clara knew the fight was far from over. The past was finally breaking free, but the future remained uncertain.
Outside, the rain began to fall, washing the dust of old secrets into the earth, yet leaving a trail that could not be erased.
Back in Ravenwood, Clara gathered the village in the old church hall. The ledger lay open on the table, its pages revealing truths that could no longer be hidden. Faces once divided by suspicion now listened with shared resolve. Clara spoke with quiet strength. "Henry's legacy is not just about debts or secrets. It is about community, forgiveness, and the chance to rebuild." Oliver stood beside his mother, proud and hopeful. "We cannot change the past, but we can decide what comes next." Isabel, who had once been a rival, now nodded in agreement. Even Marcus and Mr. Connor shared a look of cautious optimism. Outside, the sun broke through the clouds, casting warm light over Ravenwood for the first time in years. The village was scarred but healing, ready to face whatever future awaited. Clara felt the weight of her family's past lift, replaced by the promise of a new beginning. A story not just of secrets, but of hope.